We are living during a critical time on this earth, and we're witnessing how important our connection is to our bodies and our spirits, our planet, and one another.
And we're recognizing that to stand in our truth means honoring the full spectrum of our emotional human experience.
We're seeking answers in all the stories and medicine that will support us and guide us as we create the safety we need to face our fears and to feel our feels.
And we cannot do this alone. Community, connection, and compassion are at the heart of our collective healing.
I'm Ellen, a breathwork and medicine companion and creator of Trip with Ellen.
And I'm Sam, an integrative energy therapist and creator of Involution Healing. Welcome. Journey with us.
This is Woo New.
We are so honored today to be talking with Ruth Camillia, who is a healing arts practitioner, Reiki master, and akashic records practitioner. And it's interesting because I'm thinking back to sort of how we first connected through our dear mutual friend, Tanya Mark Oviedo. And it feels like it was so long ago because so much has happened since then, but it was quite recent. And they just would always tell me all of these like really, really incredible things about getting to work with you, and getting to be in a space of magic with you. And I remember when you came into our first Connect and Expand and you came on the camera, I had this like very, like I wanted to be nervous almost because I had heard so many incredible things about you, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so powerful. But your energy was so soothing and so open and grounding that it was like being wrapped in a hug, even though I had never really met you before, and it was the first time we were getting to connect virtually. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything. I'm so honored to have you on this podcast, and we're so excited to talk to you about all the things.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that, Sam. I wish you both could see this huge, goofy grin on my face. And my heart could burst. Yeah, I have to just show extra gratitude and appreciation for our shared mutual friend, amazing person, Tanya Mark. What a gift. So shout out to Tanya Mark and thank you for making this connection possible. So special.
Totally.
I'm honored to be here.
I still remember, I think I forgot the name of the circle, but it was a container that you and Tanya Mark held together. And I remember being there, and yeah, Sam's right. It's like your energy is so soothing, and it just felt so good to be in that circle. Like I just felt really, really held and nourished, like literally just in your energy. And it was just so awesome. I just really, really appreciated what you guys had put together and were offering the collective.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm sending it right back because I've just been really blessed and fortunate to get to experience circles that both of you have facilitated and led. And I feel very at home in your presence and your energy. And it's just really nice to be in this shared space together.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our audience, so they can fall in love with you as much as we have. We love to start at the beginning and just to learn a little bit about your journey and what brought you to these modalities in your spiritual practice.
Cool. Oh, I'm hoping that this has some cohesiveness. It's quite a interesting journey because I think for me it actually started before I was even born. So much of who we are and what we come here to do, I think is very much influenced by various timelines before we take our first breaths, and for me, something that I love to share and often brag about is my parents' love story.
Oh.
So my mom grew up in a small town in or a small town called Jalos Totitlan. It's in Jalisco, Mexico. And my dad is a white European American guy who grew up in Orange County, California. And he played professional baseball in his early days. And during the off season, ended up going to play ball in Mexico and happened to land in Jalos, my mom's hometown. She was a big fan of baseball herself. And so she would go out and watch the games, and she had friends that were on the team and everything. And so they were introduced when my dad had no grasp of the Spanish language. My mom had no grasp of English, and they really did speak the language of love. And they're happily married. Actually, they're celebrating their 45th wedding anniversary this weekend.
Wow.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
I got
And
total chills even as
I
you're saying
know.
that. I
Such a
just,
special love
oh,
story.
that's so
isn't that cool?
cool.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty amazing people, and it's just really neat. They're such a testament to what it means to love and be loved, because they're just very intuitive people themselves and have been tremendous role models for me and anyone who's lucky enough to have them in their lives.
Oh.
Yeah, they met in the summertime. They were engaged within like 3 months of meeting, and then they were married 2 months after that.
Dang.
Yeah, my dad had carried
Wow.
around a little Spanish English dictionary and like
Oh,
could barely even ask her to marry him properly.
I love that so much.
And yeah, and I carry so much of that with me. And of course it goes back even further because I also think a lot about the influence that my grandmothers have had on me, especially now as I've really immersed myself in a spiritual practice. I would say they're my two most primary guides. And something that's kind of interesting that I think allowed my parents to find a sense of comfort and ease in meeting and learning each other, despite being from such different backgrounds and not having even a shared language, is their devotion to their faith. And I grew up in a very Catholic family. I don't necessarily identify as Catholic because I have my own, experiences and kind of hangups around religion in general. But I think it's been a really beautiful gift and foundation for me in my practice because I just had examples and models of what it meant to be in ceremony, to perform rituals. I went to Catholic school my whole life, and I was actually an altar server for several years. And
Wow.
yeah, so I kind of, I sang a lot in church. And not because I like signed up for choir or anything. We just kind of I think for me, the music component of church was probably the only thing I really enjoyed about being there.
Mhm.
I agree with
And
that. That
right.
resonates with me. Yeah, totally.
And so these are like the little treasures that I like kind of got to pick and choose from my experiences and now carry with me in such a special way. But yeah, I think so much of what I get to do now is very much influenced by my family and by my ancestry. And of course, being of mixed cultures and heritage, comes with a lot of really interesting, unique qualities, right? I feel like it gives me this ability to traverse kind of different worlds in a lot of ways. And, I identify as Chicanx, which is also just a way of unifying and putting language into something that's very difficult to explain. There's a Nahuatl word called Nepantla that is used a lot in like Chicanx literature, art, criticism. Gloria Ansaldúa talks about this a lot in her writing. And it really does help to sort of illustrate this feeling of in between. Nepantla refers to this kind of liminal in between space where you're neither here nor there. But I think that that also kind of lends to something that Sam and I got to share and talk about when we were in session together recently. She was really helpful in highlighting this yes and component that's really prominent in my life, is in particular at this period in my life because I'm in the midst of a lot of transition. But it did really bring things back to home for me when she spoke of that, because it's just such a familiar aspect of my identity and who I am, and what it is that I do. Because there's, yes, I'm, you know, I'm a white person, and I'm a native and indigenous person, and so there's so many different qualities to my identity that I can apply that to. And I just feel so fortunate to be in a position um, to get to experience that and share that with others, because I know I'm certainly not alone. I know that there are many folks who can identify with that feeling. And so, yeah, I talk a lot about my family because I think it's led me to this work. There's been a couple of series of events in my life that have really kind of served as catalysts, I would say, for my spiritual journey. When I was about 4 years old, we moved into an enchanted home, and I call it enchanted and not haunted. I used to call it a haunted house.
I love that. I love that reframe.
Yeah. I grew up in an enchanted home. So both of my parents, being so connected to their church community specifically, were in a position where actually my dad was working at the Catholic high school that my siblings and I all attended. And through their work with the church, they were actually given the opportunity for our family to move into this home because we were renting a house that was getting ready to be demolished, and we kind of just had nowhere to go. And the community sort of stepped in and said, well, we have this house. It needs a lot of help, and it's not inhabited right now. You can, you know, uh, use it for as long as you need to. So we ended up living there for like 13 years, and
Wow.
it was a really neat house. It was on about a like quarter acre of land with a ton of fruit trees, and there was even a greenhouse. So my dad did a lot of gardening. Most of the food that we ate was grown out on our home on the
Wow.
property. And
Your parents sound so cool. I
right.
just want to hang out with them.
Yeah, seriously.
You're definitely invited to. They would love that. Yeah, so I know that that really influenced me a lot because I actually have memories of seeing some kind of, what a lot of us would consider supernatural occurrences. And, there were spirits that also lived among us in the home. And I was so young at the time that I didn't quite understand that my experience was a supernatural one. I just thought, I saw what everybody else could see. And I think as I got a little bit older, I started to realize that that was, you know, atypical. And then I honestly I think I contracted a lot, especially in like my preteens, my adolescence, and felt kind of a little bit confused by it all, and kind of just became a little witch in a broom closet. And that's when I turned to the arts. Honestly, I did a lot of journaling and writing, and I loved reading and getting lost in stories and watching movies and just really immersing myself in different worlds, where I could feel, connected. I just especially the esoteric, anything related to the esoteric, I'm like, this is my jam. I just had such a intrigue and curiosity, and I think those breadcrumbs kind of continue to lead me on the path that I'm on now. Kind of fast forward into my late 20s, maybe around the age of 30, I went on a trip to Mexico, and I didn't realize at the time that that was actually going to be the last trip I took to Mexico, where I would see my grandmother, my mom's mom, still alive. And I had really had been wanting to see the pyramids outside of Mexico City and Teotihuacan for a long time, and finally just made it a point to include that in my trip. And I had a very incredible experience there. I climbed to the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, and along with a lot of other tourists, right? It's a pretty popular site. And when I got to the top, myself and everyone with me was swarmed by hundreds of butterflies, and they
Wow.
just
What?
circled around us, and we all were just awestruck by it. I mean, I was in tears. I was so emotional. I just was completely taken aback. I think everyone who witnessed it was. We're just like, oh, wow, taking photos and videos and all this kind of stuff. And it really it stayed with me for a long time. And I was so curious about it. After I got home from that trip, I remember like doing a little Google search, and I wanted to understand if like we had just happened upon like a migration period, or if this was something that tourists specifically timed to be able to experience. And there was nothing about that. Instead, it led me to learn about the connection of uh, Mesoamerican indigenous people of the land, and their ideas around how butterflies represent our ancestors.
Oh, wow. That's
And
Whoa.
beautiful.
so, yeah, it was so beautiful. And, things continue to kind of click and fall into place for me after, it was in 2016, my grandmother died. And actually, she was the last of my living grandparents to pass away. And my grandfather on my dad's side had also um, passed within 3 months of her. So it was just a lot of loss at once. But what was very interesting about that experience for me was there was such a contrast in my experience around grief, with their loss compared to losses I had experienced prior. And when my paternal grandmother had died in 2013, I was a complete wreck. It really crushed me, and I had a very difficult time processing that grief. And I didn't feel that same sense of loss this time around. And I had a hard time understanding why. And it wasn't until maybe a year after my maternal grandmother died that I actually was visited by both of my grandmothers.
Wow.
And my maternal grandmother was very prominent in that experience. And it was the first real experience of that kind that I'd had, where I just truly, like, I felt like I could almost touch her. And, I was kind of just in awe, and I was very emotional. I was crying, and I was, uh, realizing that I had a little bit of guilt, and I was kind of crying to my grandmother, apologizing because I felt that I had not grieved for her in the same way that I had grieved for my other grandmother.
Mm.
And she said to me in that moment that it was because she had never left.
Oh, wow.
And so all of these types of experiences, I think so much of it is, being in nature, connecting with art. I journaled profusely about that experience, and just,
Can
yeah.
I ask, when you connected with them, like, was there a specific modality that you were sitting with, or were you just meditating?
This is very interesting. I'm glad that you asked that, because this is something that I now utilize in my Akashic Records practice. I wasn't being super intentional about it. I was actually in the shower when this happened. And you know how it is in the shower.
Yeah.
We get those thoughts. We're kind of just letting the day sort of dissipate and feeling a little bit relaxed, and you're all alone, and it's kind of quiet. So I guess I was sort of in a meditation, but not, specifically intentionally. It just sort of came over me. And the really neat and kind of curious thing about that was the following day, I was so eager to share this experience with my mom, tell her all about it. And before I could even get into it, she said, "Oh, you remembered. She would have been 93 today." And so
Wow.
Whoa.
she visited me on the eve of her birthday, and it all again was so special, and it made a lot of sense, because even in her visit she kept mentioning a gift. She was saying something about a gift, and to me, I thought, okay, yeah, this is a gift. What a gift to experience this. But then when my mom said it was her birthday, I thought, oh, this is her gift, her birthday gift.
Wow.
Aww.
Yeah. So those are the big things, I would say, that have kind of, led me on this path. There's just so many real synchronistic moments, and still, and they still continue to unfold, and I'm literally constantly picking up the breadcrumbs. But yes, I think my desire to continue to honor and connect with my ancestors is a big part of what influences and inspires me. Um, and like I said earlier, um, being a witness to what it means to have faith and to witness devotion. Both of my grandmothers were devotees of Mother Mary, and would pray the rosary on a daily basis. And so, I now, when I pray the rosary, I do that in honor of them, to feel close to them primarily. And it's just amazing to see the way that their faith had carried them throughout their lives and allowed them to be such instruments of love and peace and compassion to everyone who knew them. I mean, they both, and it was really cute, because they actually they loved each other, even though they didn't speak each other's language. They would sit in a room together, and they would talk, they would communicate, like they could sit together for hours. And it was
Wow. I
such a
love
neat
that.
thing to witness. Yeah.
As you were mentioning that both of your grandmothers prayed the rosary, and that Mother Mary was very much, kind of their guide, and
Mhm.
I that's honestly the energy that I feel from you is Mother
Yes.
Mary
Wow.
energy. Yeah.
Oh,
It just
thank
clicked.
you.
It clicked as soon as you said that, because it is a very like, it's a maternal but gentle and tender kind of energy. It's
So
very
nurturing.
different than like
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene energy, but the Mother Mary energy is just so peaceful and calming.
Thank
And
you for saying that. That's cool.
yeah, and then the butterflies too. I just have to also share that I took a trip to Washington last year to work with a teacher, and we ended up camping for 4 or 5 days right by this little creek, I guess. Yeah, a running like natural, spring water kind of creek. And every morning I would get up and her dog would follow me down to the creek, and I would like wash my hands and stuff. And there was always a little family of butterflies that were gathered and kind of like hanging out by the mud and, just kind of flittering around about. And I just thought that they were there. I just thought that they were just like part of the, that's their home, right? So they're going to be there, and it's the season that they were out. And my teacher was just like, I haven't seen them. They seem to be
Whoa.
always there when you're there,
Oh, wow.
And it was the first time I realized, like, oh my God, that's my ancestors. And I had that same sort of like kind of gut hit that, oh, they're here for me. It's like my dad, my grandparents, my, great grandparents, like in this little family unit. Cause there was like 5 or 6 or 7 of them all kind of
Wow.
like gathered together. And they kept on showing up multiple days. So I was just like, as soon as my teacher was like, I haven't actually seen them. I'm hearing you telling me about them, but I actually haven't seen them with my own eyes. I was like, whoa,
Wow.
okay. It truly is special, these little signs.
Oh, so, so special. Thank you for sharing that. That actually kind of
Yeah.
made me a little emotional. That's really
Mm.
sweet. Yeah, the nature component.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, there's all these signs and animals are just such special messengers and guides for us. And that's definitely something that I paid attention to very early on in life. And I think, again, having access to nature, growing up in the house that I got to grow up in, spent a lot of time outside, just climbing
Mhm.
trees, making mud pies, and chasing butterflies.
Yeah, I did that too. That's so funny. There's so many like so we always laugh about all the parallels that come up when you start like picking up the crumbs and following the synchronicities, because it's like on my altar, as you're telling that story about Teotihuacan, I'm looking at this gift that was given to me because I visited the pyramids as well when I was younger, and I was there on my birthday, and I keep that on my altar because it's such a special energy and memory for me. And yeah, and then again with the butterflies too, it's like it's funny because I love that we all have butterfly stories, because my grandmother is always with me, and it's like every time I step outside there's like one very specific kind of butterfly that I always see, and it's like it doesn't matter if I'm in San Diego or in LA or out here in the desert, it's like I always see it when I go outside, and I always feel her, and I'm like, this is such a special, like, what a special magical gift to receive, and like to just
Wow.
have those moments of connection.
Yeah.
Ooh, what kind of butterfly is it, Sam?
I actually, it's just a solid bright yellow butterfly, and they're like a little bit smaller than monarch butterflies.
Yes.
I know
Oh,
exactly what
beautiful.
you're talking
Hmm.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a moment like a few years ago where I kind of got the gut hit that if I see a yellow, actually, I want to say that this came through Jamie, the animal communicator. She's like, your dad is showing up as a yellow butterfly.
Oh.
And I remember being in my yard and just seeing them, not all the time, but on occasion, like, I'll just see this
Mm-hmm.
teeny little yellow butterfly kind of go through. But so awesome that your grandmother's showing up in the
Yeah,
same form, It's really amazing.
that's special. I love that.
Yeah, there's something really interesting there too, because for all of us, it's like loved ones and
Yeah.
ancestors,
Hmm.
and so it's so fascinating that um, it's like you just can't deny the synchronicities when you start getting into this work.
Yeah,
Exactly.
truly.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so cool to get to talk about it and share it because then it just validates and affirms, right? Like we already had the hunch about it, but to just hear that it's, yeah, that we get to share that, it makes it all the more special.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I recently shared a really special session where you, it's like, again, following the breadcrumbs of the universe, like when we first connected, I was just like so in awe of your energy and your gifts that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to experience your healing. And so when I reached out to you and we sat down and did that Akashic Records reading together, it was so powerful. And it was so like initially I was like, oh my gosh, as an energy healer, it's always really special for me to have the honor of like being held by another energy healer and also
Mm.
just to be able to receive in so many ways. But it was like that day it was so clear that like we needed to do an Akashic reading together, and it was so unique and it was so much fun because it was like open these connections to the records that I've never experienced before on such like an intimate level.
Mm.
Oh,
Can you guys describe what that was? Like what you mean about what was different about this particular reading?
Mm. Uh,
well, do you want to
yeah,
say, Sam, how
I'll
it's
let
different
you
for you?
I'll let you describe your technique because I think
Okay.
it's just so unique and so special, and then I'll jump in with little anecdotes around like how incredible my experience was.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, so for me this is actually just how I feel guided to work in the records, and I think a lot of it is influenced by the instruction that I received when I first became certified in the
Mm.
Akashic Records. So I had a teacher who every week we got to work with different tools, divination tools, and ways of connecting to the records, whether it was meditation or tea readings or swinging a pendulum. Um, when we got to the week where we practiced automatic writing in the records, the doors opened so wide for me, and it really it made so much sense. I felt like I was receiving a lot of downloads in that. And so as I continued my own personal practice, that was the way that I primarily worked with the records is I would use originally the Linda Howe's method of
Uh-huh.
her pathway prayer.
Yeah.
And then eventually I received guidance to create my own pathway. So I now use, a different version of an incantation, if you will, that is, you know, specific to some of the language that I prefer to use when I'm doing spiritual work. And it's really just language. Instead of saying God, it's creator, spirit, that kind of thing. And so what I feel called to is kind of instead of opening the records and reading for someone, it's an invitation for us to be in the records together. So in a Akashic Records session, I would invite the person to join me in opening with that pathway,
Mm.
and then getting a pen and paper handy, um, formulating questions that, I mean, and the questions could be truly almost anything, but formulating questions that are kind of specific to where the person is looking for guidance in that moment. And then once we have those questions kind of laid out, we'll spend I'll set a timer for about 5 minutes and just do automatic writing in response to those questions. And then at the end of it, each question we compare notes, and it's amazing. It's really special to see the way that the messages overlap. But I'm also, I gotta bring this in because this is actually the style of working with the records that connected me to Tanya Mark, which is
Oh,
how I'm now
wow.
connected with you. Also, we met in a study hall with Leah Garza, who's known as Crystals of Altamira on IG. And she leads and facilitates study halls in a very similar style. And so that really obviously resonated with me. But this is just the way I've continued to work in the records. Is just an invitation and sort of an invitation so that, by the end of it, you can leave and feel inspired to hopefully want to do this in your own practice too.
That's super rad. I love
Right?
that. Yeah, it's like how it feels collaborative and not,
It is.
It is.
you know?
Yep, that's
And
exactly it.
the thing I love most about this, oh God, I can't even tell you how timely this conversation is right now. But the reason why I love about it is because the person that is being read for still retains their power. Like what you've
Yes.
in essence done is given them permission to step in with you where both of you are still in your own individual power but joined together. And so in like,
Yes.
in service and in what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's not collaboration, but yeah, it's essentially you're holding each other in this experience. But like Sam, what I'm hearing is that like you still were able to retain your own power and receive directly versus having somebody straight up just interpret what they're seeing and you having to just trust 100%, all
Yes.
the way. Yeah.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head perfectly. Like I was telling Ruth after our session, I was like, I've never had an experience like this where I felt like I was directly connecting to the records and I didn't feel like on the outside of it. And that just opened up so many doorways for me because it first like I don't know. It was interesting. It was like I just had this call that day that was like, no, you have to get an Akashic Records reading, not an energy healing. That was like my guides were very specific about that. And then the messages that came through were so beautiful, and this experience was so intimate. And like right around the same time, another shout out to Leah Garza and Tanya Mark because I was just starting to connect with Leah Garza, and I'm just about to start an Akashic mentorship with her that lasts the duration of the year. And I'm so excited because I'm like, okay, I'm picking up all these little breadcrumbs. But it was this incredible experience with you, Ruth, that really opened my eyes to like not just new connections and new ways of working within the Akashic Records, but also to like you just sparked this like new sense of excitement with this modality that it's like I've known about it for a while, and I've always really enjoyed getting readings, but again I always just sort of felt like I was on the outside of it, and this totally changed the game for me.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. I love that.
It's super cool. I actually have taken sort of, it's like Helen Vonder's
Yes.
scenes. Like, yeah, I forget the name of the course though. It wasn't just her Akashic Records, like, like 101. It was personal pathways, I think she called it. But it's exactly as you say, like we wrote our own prayer. And so I was doing it for a while, but I think there was something, and I'm bringing this up because I'm really curious to hear your perspective on this. I didn't fully connect to it because I felt like I was able to receive information without using my prayer through other means. And so the prayer became almost kind of like this, how do I even say it? It's like an extra step, like an extra thing that I'm like, do I really need it? Because I don't, So I'm curious for you, especially because you wrote your own prayer and like the way you bring people into the records with you. that speaks to me on a soul level that I can't even really articulate in words. It just feels so special because, again, it's the power dynamic, which is, I think, why I haven't gotten an Akashic Records reading in a really long time.
I'm so grateful to hear this. This is my jam, obviously. I get pretty excited about it. And I think ultimately why I feel really strongly about working with the records in this way is because the records have offered so much comfort and feelings around love that I think everyone deserves to experience for themselves. And it's just truly so special. I've had so many moments in the records where I just feel held, like I feel the presence of my guides and my ancestors and ascended masters, and like everyone is there. And you know, so many other times as I explored different modalities, I would get this feeling of like nervousness or anxiety, sometimes even fear, like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? What's going to show up? Even having readings done for me, I'm like, am I ready for this? Can I handle it?
Yeah, I've been there.
Right. But when I open the records, I just trust. I just feel that whatever is meant to be, in that moment will show. And if it's not right timing, then it's not happening. And I just feel so good knowing that. And the other thing that I think really motivates me to work in the records in this very specific kind of way is, so much of it is influenced by my guides. My guides and I have an amazing relationship at this point where I can hear them. I know when they're guiding me to do something and I can usually tell when they're asking me to pump the brakes. And that was something that I feel that my guides were really spot on about, where they just were like, think about what it is that you love about the records, and now consider how you can help other people feel that too. And you said it earlier, Ellen. I think there is sometimes in different spiritual practices this like disconnect that can happen because not everything is for everyone, right? And it's interesting because when we work in the records, we actually refer to gatekeepers, right? There's literally that language of gatekeepers and guides. And I mean, that kind of put me off a little bit initially. I have to be totally honest. I was like, wait a second. And so I still honor the gatekeepers because I see them and I recognize them in a different way that is not specific to that language and how I identify, gatekeepers in other, realms, we'll say.
Yeah, like the 3D. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 3D. And so instead, my experience is that the Akashic records are literally for everyone. Like if there is a file with your name on it, you should be able to see what's inside that file, right? Like if other people, if, thinking about even like medical records, right? Like if doctors are reading up about you and you're not there to see what it is that they're looking at, like you kind of want to know what they're looking at, right? And you kind of have to see for yourself in a lot of ways. And I think that is really why I've been so called to work in this specific kind of way with the records. It is really just a collaboration, an invitation, and yeah, doing it together really does kind of amplify and um, assist in that kind of affirming and validation that we all need when we do this work, right? Like, that was right, wasn't it? I'm not crazy, am I? Like those things that come up, right? When we do this kind of work, it's just so comforting and so nice to know that, like, hey, this is accessible. You don't need to be, a shaman or a guru to be able to access the records. Anyone can do this for themselves, and we all have a right to in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Oh, everything you said is just like music.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much because yeah, I think and I think okay, so what I'm about to say, I feel like this is kind of coming up a lot. I feel like Sam and I have talked about this very recently, and it's still in my presence right now too. But I think there's, again, a lot of potential harm that can be done when it comes to divination and things like this, and readings, and again, it's like it's all about that power dynamic, and it's really hard to suss out from the outside whether or not a reader or somebody who has access to this kind of information is going to wield that power in a way that is respectful and thoughtful, And so I think everything that you're sharing, it just, I mean, I'm like, okay, we're going to get off this call and I'm going to sign up for a reading, because yeah, it's like, I mean, it's half the reason why these days I kind of, I work with the tarot myself, and there's still something different when you're sitting in front of somebody and they're reading for you.
Reading.
Yeah, but I'm also so conscious about like, boundaries these days, and like
Right.
where my energy begins and ends, and like I've just given my power away so many times before, and not necessarily even in these sort of reading situations, but in every context possible. So I think that's why I become so extra discerning and vigilant about like, who am I going to let into my like
Your
my
field.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I know, I'm so picky these days. I'm like, my energy can't take anything crazy anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is so much about that autonomy, right? And
Yes.
uh yeah, just having the reminder that we are our own best guides. We know ourselves better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of brings it back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something really interesting happened in our session too when we were on the second question and we were doing the automatic writing. When we came back, I think it was the second question, but when we came back, because we had been comparing sort of what came through and what we were channeling. But there was one question where it was like, was it my guides or your guides who said this? But it was sort of like we got like split apart basically, and they were like, yes, this answer's for her,
right?
And then like yep, gave you something like this other whole different nugget, and like that question, I could have kept writing for like 10 minutes. There was so much stuff coming through, and it was totally not what I expected it to be. But because I was in the records with you, it was like as soon as we entered, it was like I could feel exactly what you were talking about, like our ancestors and loved ones and all of these incredible beings like supporting us and holding us in these frequencies of just love. So when we came out and this response was, it was beautiful. It was great. It was just not what I was expecting. And then to hear on your side that you were like, no, I didn't get an answer. Like they wouldn't get specific with me. I was like, okay, that's how you know this is like a true collaboration, right? Because you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I do recall that, Sam, and it's so interesting. I have to say the records have a great sense of humor, first of all. I'm always laughing when I'm in the records because there is such a presence of force, you can almost sort of distinguish the various like voices. It's almost like for me, I often do visualize it like a library. So it's almost like you step into this library. There's a librarian there. Next thing you know, oh, you're running into an old friend who's also in the same library. and there's all these different sort of voices who are like, oh, I remember the story this way. Oh, let me interject and include this part of it, right? And so it was sort of something similar to that was happening in that moment with Sam, where there were two guides present, two of Sam's guides present, and one of the guides started to kind of jump in, and I'm making notes of what I'm picking up there, and the other guide kind of interjected and was like, actually no, like that is for Sam. Sam will get that message directly. Let's talk about this other thing.
Oh, interesting. And at this moment, were they talking specifically more about you? Like, are you guys in there together kind of almost for your own, like Ruth, are you in there asking questions that are about you? And Sam, you're in there asking about questions about you? Or are both of you in these readings like focused on you, Sam?
Oh, see, this was a really cool thing too that Ruth sort of guided me through. Is like we got a chance to really connect and ground and talk about what was going on and sort of the and Ruth was so kind and like just held me as I sort of walked through what I was working through and the circumstances around everything, and then we collaboratively crafted 3 questions together, and then we asked those questions at the same time and then wrote down our responses.
And they were specific to Sam.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
The session was for Sam. So holding space for Sam around the questions that she was looking for guidance with.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you were saying that one of the guides was saying like, we're not going to essentially give you the answers, Ruth, it was going directly to Sam. Is that kind of what was happening?
With one of the guides, yes. One of the guides was like, actually, no, Sam will receive that directly. But you can share this other thing with Sam.
Gotcha. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was so interesting. And like, it was so potent too, because I keep going back to that. And like, I remember that question, I was really trying to like do some excavation, right? Like look at these aspects of self that like maybe hadn't been uncovered yet, but could really benefit from healing. And I'm going back and I'm looking at the messages and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are so exactly the energies that we're moving through right now. It was like, your life is just going to be different. Basically, and it was like they were basically like, you have this idea of how this is on one side, but like your life is going to be so different, it's going to follow a different path. So like it almost was like that specific excavation I was trying to get to. This is why the Akashic records now I'm like so extra fascinated by, because I thought it was going to be a very specific answer of like, okay, you need to really do some healing around this, childhood work or this, trauma or whatever it is. And it just ended up being this really beautiful response of like, the question was almost, it wasn't irrelevant, but it was just like it was like we came to a fork in the road and they just guided me to the other road. And they were like, the circumstances around your life are just going to be so different that, that what you're digging for is almost unnecessary at this point.
It's like irrelevant. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Like there was no reference from a previous experience that Sam could tap into because it's such a new experience that hasn't been lived yet.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the answer was all about like moving forward. And the question was so specifically about something that was like old that I might be carrying with me. So it was super cool. And they were like, that doesn't matter,
Yeah.
This reminds me a little bit, like what's coming up for me right now is it's a conversation I had with a friend yesterday who's also a space holder, but she was going, do you feel like we're kind of in between timelines right now? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
Right. And then I relayed that same message because I'm very much feeling that way too. to another healer, and she's like, oh my god, exactly, that's exactly how I feel. It's like we're sort of in the in between liminal right now, you know, and something has just ended, but we haven't fully gone full steam in this new timeline, and it, you know, we're kind of it's a little uncomfortable right now because it, you know, you kind of don't really know how things are going to go, or like even really what to really focus on, but you know, it's like really a period of trust,
in
right?
between.
Just
It's the
yeah,
in between.
Yeah, again,
yeah,
right? That in between.
totally, totally,
The yes and.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. It was such a powerful experience because it really was just like this really amazing reframing of just perspective and like where I focus my energy. It was just very like, it felt like someone I love very deeply who knows me very well, like was holding my hand and just was like, no, let's come this way.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was so gentle.
That's awesome.
Love it so much.
I'm curious, Ruth, how do you ever work with the tarot in the records, or how do you bring those
Oh yeah,
two together?
Oh.
definitely. I thank you for asking. You know, at this point, because I just really enjoy being in the records, I really do incorporate it almost into every modality that I tap into now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely an influence of the records even in my Reiki practice.
Nice.
But with the tarot, yeah, usually it's just a matter of opening the records. For me, you know, using my pathway, and then doing a spread like I normally would. So it's just one little extra step.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel that there's more information being offered. And something that's really cool about it is what we were just talking about, where there is this ability to traverse all timelines,
Mm.
past,
Mm-hmm.
present, and future, right? And it's such a really interesting way that I think, yeah, just supports a tarot reading in a really cool way.
Mm. That's super
Damn, I
interesting.
want to play with that so much now. This is going to be
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know, because it's like the way, excuse me, my voice is like totally going out. But the way I understand or work with the tarot, it's always like the now, right? It's always the present.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to imagine bringing in the records to sort of support that. And I'm curious, do you notice that difference when you're playing with the tarot outside of the records versus when you're playing with tarot inside the records?
Yeah.
You do. Okay.
I do. I do. It's sort of just, it's very subtle. But if I had to describe it, I think that when I don't open the records prior and I'm reading, you know, doing a tarot reading, there's so much of my own voice that's present there.
Mm-hmm.
Even as I'm, you know, thinking about, like, it doesn't even have to be reading the tarot for someone else. If I'm reading for myself, the thoughts that show up, the connections that I make very much feel connected to my own essence and my voice.
Gotcha.
When I open the records, it's almost like there's another hand,
Mm.
you know, kind of influencing what is showing up and what I'm looking at. And so it's really kind of neat. It just takes it almost a little step further.
Gotcha. Are you
Wow.
somebody that keeps your records open 24/7? Or do you like to close?
I have been in the records for like a full day before,
Uh-huh.
and I've also left them open before I go to sleep and had
Mm-hmm.
really cool experiences. But generally now I do close the records, and mostly just because I think for me there it feels like there's a reverence there. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be
Mm-hmm.
extractive, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
I've recognized that this is still sacred space that I'm stepping into, and you know, there's a sort of a feeling of like, do I have permission? Do I have permission to
Hmm.
access um, this book that I want to pull off the shelf for a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and that really resonates with me too, because it does feel kind of like it there is an extractive element to just like keeping the
Mm-hmm.
records open always. Yeah, because then I feel like the pathway or the prayer is it's just there is that sense of reverence that is spoken there, and I think even going back to what you said really early on as you're telling us your background story, growing up in the church and growing up around ritual, I think that idea of ritual, which is essentially this pathway, right? Opening up the records is a ritual, closing the records is a ritual. I've become, so cognizant of how the like I'm reading this book right now called Compassion or Companioning the Bereaved, and it's really all about grief work. But the person who wrote it, Alan Wolfett, who I think is the director of the Center of Grief and I want to say End of Life or Loss in End of Life, he talks about how the disappearance of ritual is really affecting our relationship with death and really affecting our relationship, with life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because,
totally believe that.
right, it's like people don't want to have funerals anymore. They just want to be done with it and like not honor what has just occurred. And so when you do away with these rituals, specifically here around like even honoring the passing, the transition of somebody, then you don't have that reverence for life either. And I feel the same way about this kind of work too, the rituals that are interwoven into this kind of
Yes.
spiritual work.
Oh, I totally agree. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I love, you know, bringing focus back to that and being reminded of that. There is such potency in the
Yeah.
ritual aspect of the work we get to do.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like if you were to just open the records and leave them open all the time, there would be this like lackluster of intention.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like you're not sitting down to commune. You're just, yeah, exactly like you guys were saying, just being extractive. It's like pulling out all this stuff. And then at that point, it's like, it's not really spiritual guidance in the same way.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
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 It's
I
kind of like
love everything you guys are saying.
it's kind of like leaving the water faucet going. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I'm gonna get my drink of water
Yes.
and I'm just gonna keep on leaving it going.
Right.
Yeah. And
And it
there's no
Yeah.
time
just
for integration then either.
yeah, yeah. I
Exactly.
I asked only because I didn't realize that was a thing, but I think there are some people out there that prefer to have the records just open all the time. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, interesting. I never even thought that that could be done, but I guess obviously it could be. But yeah, it was interesting.
It is, yeah. I mean, so many options, right? And so I definitely don't want to say don't do that if someone feels called and maybe there's a reason to leave it open, or a necessity that I'm just not aware of. And it can definitely be different for different people, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just my personal, and there's so many things with the records similar to that. And I know that you both use cannabis in your journey work, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that is, mentioned in a lot of preparation around being in the records. There's kind of
Mm-hmm.
these like agreements or guidelines, which include, refraining from uh, alcohol or
Mm-hmm.
um, any,
Mind altering
mind
substances.
altering substance.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so I have a difference of opinions around that. Like I definitely partake, right? Like to me, there's so many different like medicinal components, and my relationship with cannabis is maybe at a place now where I'm still holding in reverence and honor and recognize the gifts that are granted through that ritual as well.
Mm.
So Even though I had been instructed and learned in a course where that was kind of considered a no-no.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of mentioned that as a disclaimer when I am in the records with other people. And I personally don't necessarily partake when I'm in a session reading with someone else for them. But I certainly do, almost every time I'm reading for myself. And
Wow. Does the spirit of cannabis really help? Like, how does that affect your experience with the records?
I think in a similar way that cannabis affects my experience with everything and anything, which is just that, like, I mean, for me, I just, I feel that there's a relationship, and a
Mhm.
connection and such salve that comes
Yeah.
through because I've I've and just this also speaks to what um kind of led me to the work that I do now. A lot of that also has to do with the fact that I've been chronically ill my whole life and have had chronic pain and mental health issues my whole life, anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
And so for me, cannabis really allows me to kind of take off my armor
Mhm.
in a way,
Yeah.
and just feel a little bit relaxed and immersed in what I'm doing in a way that I can't always access.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wearing my mask and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That makes a
Yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
sense. Yeah. I had a friend who microdosed while opening up the records, and that wasn't as supportive for them. But I was really curious to see how cannabis as like a plant ally could be helpful and supportive. I mean, I see cannabis also as like Mother Mary energy too.
Right. I
Mm-hmm.
was just gonna say it has a
Oh,
Yeah.
very symbiotic energy with like all
Yeah.
of these pieces coming together.
Yeah.
yes. Oh, I love that. I thank you for letting me visualize that connection, Ellen. I agree.
Oh, well, we I can't believe like we're almost running out of time already. It feels like we could talk about this forever. We didn't even get a chance to talk about your energy healing practice, so we'll have to do another interview soon.
Yay.
Yeah, but we always love to end by asking, like through your journey and all of your experiences, what is like the most special medicine you carry with you as you
Wow.
move forward?
Oh, I'll probably bring it back to the things that I spoke of right at the beginning, which is my ancestry, my ancestors, my ancestors, and then also nature and the arts, creativity, creative expression in all forms. Those are the primary pieces that I carry with me.
I love that. Oh.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because we're in this space of set like I feel like this conversation around like the importance of ritual and like really being in your practice and like opening up and allowing that to really deepen this year is such a big theme. Um, and so I think it's so beautiful that you came back to that, right, as like the most special medicine that you carry with you all the time because we're really being called to sit with that this year and really like receive the gifts of this practice as we move forward, especially after the Lunar New Year. It's the in between.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how can people reach you if they would like to work with you, Ruth?
Oh, thank you so much for asking that. I'm online, of course. I have a website. It's ruthcamillia.com. Camellia is spelled Camillia. I'm also on Instagram with the same name. It's just Ruth_Camillia. And the email, same kind of thing. You can also email me. It's ruth.camillia@gmail.com.
Amazing. And we'll have all that information in the show notes too, so that anyone who wants to reach you can use those links. And it's just been such an honor. Like, this was such a fun conversation. I can't wait to like start talking about even more, because I mean, we just barely scratched the surface here.
I know. I'm definitely calling you up for a session. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I would love it so much, Ellen. Thank you both tremendously. I can't thank you enough. I just feel so grateful, so honored to get to be a part of these conversations with you too. I've really enjoyed listening to some of the other conversations that you've had on your podcast, and I'm gonna continue to dive into it because there's some catching up I need to do. Yeah, it just feels really cool and very special to get to chat with you both.
Awesome. Likewise. Yeah. Thank you so much. We are so excited to announce our first ever medicine retreat, Land is Body is Land. It's taking place May 23rd through 28th in Costa Rica's Playa Azul. It's going to be a sensory celebration of embodiment, where we will spend 5 nights and 6 days giving ourselves permission to slow down, to listen and feel, to taste and smell, and to really dive deeper into our senses, to observe our bodies, to witness our bodies and our relationship to the land. Healing doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in community and in relationship. And to heal or to become whole again, we must reconnect those disconnected parts of ourselves. So that means reconnecting to the land that is our bodies, really leaning in and learning and listening to the language of frequency and sensation that our bodies speak. And we also must reconnect to the land that sustains our bodies, learning to commune with the spirits of nature and the earth. And so we'll be visiting a biodynamic farm, exploring food, learning about our sacred relationship with food. We'll be journeying through breath work, receiving healing through reiki and sound, and also journeying with the sacred mushroom. So we hope that you can join us. If you're interested, please fill out our intake form on our website, wearealldaughters.co. Again, our website is wearealldaughters.co. We hope to welcome you into our circle. Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.